So the Crow came out. The Crow came out this weekend. I watched it. Came out this weekend. I watched it. I'm aware Culture watched it. We'll give our brief thoughts of the movie, and then we'll talk about the box office and things like that. It's a general conversation, I guess, about the film. We will talk spoilers as well. Like, there's nothing to spoil particularly. Although I will say, how right was my source, Culture? Because I revealed the entire
100%,
plot of this
100% nailed it.
Months before this film was released.
Yeah.
What did you think about the film? I know you didn't like it at all, so yeah.
Oh boy, it was awful. Beginning to end, the first act of the film was a complete waste. It took, I don't know, was it 25 minutes before we even get Eric Draven character in it? It's all about this chick. Shelley becomes far more important in this movie than she was even considered in the first. This the weirdest sacrifice ever, and it's some kind of strange at the very end of the third act. The disassociation of time. It was bizarre, but ultimately everything that you saw in the trailers was most of the action scenes, and they don't really show up. Like, the good action doesn't show up till the third act. The first act is dumb. It's dumb. It's drugs. It's wanton, crazy, unearned sex. It's the first two acts are a complete waste. The setup of the bad guy is superficially done. You get a sense that I forget his name. They wasted an actor, a very, very good actor as the villain, and didn't use him at all. And the ending was just so stupid, but none of the things that you would have thought would have been in The Crow were in this film. None of them. And it's centered around the wrong story. And again, it may have wasted like the last chance for Skarsgård to like elevate himself a little bit. This isn't the vehicle for him. So I feel like I wasted 122 minutes or whatever it was. It ran a bit long. It ran longer than the original film. I think the original film was 111 minutes, but it didn't use some of the things that you would have expected in the film. It was not true to the comic. I couldn't find anything. It was occasionally in focus. That's something positive I can say about the film. Because even the filmmaking was poor.
Technically there are some things that are actually pretty decent, but yeah.
But most of the way through, it's like, oh wow, that's what, some of the camera placements, the cinematography was not spot on. The use of light was also very poor. They couldn't get when she's dancing around like an idiot at with the fire thing or whatever. That was not in focus at all. I was like, how do you create that much blur?
I think that might have been the point from an artistic perspective, to be like, this is a bit dreamy, but yeah, you're kind of right, I guess. I'm not trying to defend it, but
no. The fire was in focus. I'm like, if that was intentionally done,
I don't know. I'm not.
It was just weird.
It sound like I'm defending the film because it wasn't very good.
No, but I couldn't find. I didn't do a review. This is the first film I went to that I didn't do a review on because it was that bad. It pissed me off that much.
That's stupid.
I know.
At least you'd have made money from doing a review.
I know, and it was a very selfish thing for me because here's the other problem. There wasn't anything very memorable in the film. You can't hang your coat on a moment in this film. You can't. You immediately start to forget things because they weren't important. This film is so unimportant that, like, I can remember the key elements, and that's it. That's all. It's not like it's not like normally I can walk people through a film beginning to end and it means something, but until you get to the third act, I don't think it meant anything. And then the ending was not a payoff. It felt me quite let down.
It was definitely anticlimactic.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's is that what you mean?
Yeah, I was quite let down.
Okay.
Yeah, at the end of the film, I was just like, this is not. There's no. It's not satisfying. This film. Normally, I can even find satisfying moments in the action.
Mm.
I didn't see. There weren't any. I mean, if you're trying, there are some visual elements they tried to set up like a Batman film. They didn't pay off.
Yeah, I mean, I am wondering. I need to reach out to my source that watched this at test screenings, and just see whether they changed anything from test screenings or not. Because from what I'd already done a video on before, so long ago now, I mean, it matched it to a T. Like it was completely the same thing, right? Like there wasn't anything different. There just wasn't anything different at all. So I wonder if I sort of pried into a bit more detail, whether there would be anything that was sort of cut and changed. Because from my perspective, so like overall, ladies and gents, I mean, culture's opinion is pretty close to my own, right? Like the film isn't massively great. It's not massively great at all. It's definitely got huge issues, and it's got huge issues because of really, really silly. If this was just a Crow film and it wasn't Eric Draven and Shelley, some of this would work as a Crow film because Bill Skarsgård is actually really, really good in the role when he gets going.
Yeah,
the opera house scene towards the end of the film, which Culture was speaking about, you know, the third act, is actually really, really decent.
Yeah.
You know, he's hacking up arms, he's stomping on people's heads and breaking their necks and literally jamming swords horizontally.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Mouths, slicing their faces open. I mean, it's really actually quite bloody and gory and really good, right? Like it's actually what you want in these kind of films. Gratuitous violence.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what it should be. This is a man seeking revenge for the love of his life. So yeah, you do. It's not gratuitous at that point.
No.
But it also should feel more earned. And so they're damned if they do. Well, they were damned because they made it Eric Draven and Shelley, and they're damned because of also really stupid narrative decisions, like making them smackheads and crackheads and whatever, right? A bunch of addicts. Now, and I said this in my review, is that if you're going to make them a bunch of addicts and they meet in rehab, to make me care about these people would be to make them leave rehab and go, we found each other. This is a new lease of life. Let's clean up. But they didn't. They immediately left rehab and then partook in numerous levels of debauchery and degeneracy. And I'm like, I don't care about you people. You deserve to die. Because quite frankly, I don't actually care about addicts. They are, no offense anyone, but generally speaking, they're awful people, right? They would sell their granny for a hit. That's what an addict is, a quintessential, an actual addict. So, you know, not people in the chat that may be like, oh, you know, do a bit of weed every now and then. I'm obviously not talking about you. You know, and so I don't care about these people, right? Like these people are awful people. And all I'm watching are these two addicts just going at it. I'm not, I don't care. Like, I don't care about you. I would care if they were like, we found love.
Yeah.
We found each other. We found love against all odds. Let's clean ourselves up, right? That becomes more of an arc. And then you could have Shelley get murdered. You could have Bill, you know, maybe do an overdose then. And then he dies. And then in the fit of revenge comes back. Do you see? Like, you could do it that way. That would be better. But it was just lame, man. It was just absolutely lame because of these weird choices that they made. You've got to make people like the characters for them to then, you know, root for them moving forwards. So yeah, it's a bit shit, to be honest. But the third act was really good, and Bill Skarsgård is really good as the Crow. But with the way that this thing's flopping, and we're going to get into that in a couple minutes, but I think they cut too much exposition out of the first and second act, because I think if there were edits, I think they removed about 20 minutes worth of this film, I reckon.
Yeah, I would say that easily.
Because there's stuff implied in this movie, right? So the villain has literally sold his soul to the devil, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So he sold his soul to the devil, ladies and gents, and
he can
in
whisper.
exchange for that, he sends innocent souls down to hell.
Yeah.
But then also randomly, and this is something which they've clearly cut out the film, he feeds on their blood as well, because he cuts his hand open and he drains them of blood into his hand to gain some of their essence to stay around longer or something like that. I don't really know. It's not said. There's these weird things which were included, which clearly there would have been an element of a backstory in it. It's really odd. And so I reckon they've chopped probably about 20 minutes out of. Like the fact that the villain is interested in the crow and he's like, oh, so he can't die then? Right, I need to get him. I need to get his blood. Like, why, mate? Why do you need to get his blood? Like, it's not explained.
I feel like you said, they had to have removed some very essential information from the film that the audience needed for some of it to make sense. That's why I said it's not good story. It's not good. It's not good storytelling. It's not good filmmaking. You lost your audience because there's motivations that are missing in here, right? It's something I called out about the Acolyte on every episode. It's like it's incongruent. It's and there's missing motivations. And I mean, by the time you get to the third act, which is the only thing worth watching, in my opinion, it's like, why am I sitting here in this theater? You know, aside from the air conditioning, which was perfectly lovely, but yeah, it's just come on now. Yeah.
So, well, look, anyway, obviously, this movie didn't do massively well at the box office this weekend.
Ugh.
So, yeah, bombed.
And I mean, look, he looks the part. I didn't appreciate the head to toe tattoo thing, but that's an aesthetic choice. It's fine. But
yeah,
I mean, he looked like he would be good in the role. He kind of made me feel like he was playing the wrestler Sting and not Eric Draven. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
But and the whole black around the eyes thing, that didn't show up until the third act, I think.
I know.
And it was related to the tattoo. I'm like, I don't want to do this. This is stupid dumb. You know, it's I know. But okay, money wise,
$4.6 million opening. But what did it do worldwide? Because I can't find that anywhere.
Oh wow, it made almost nothing. Let me get that for you. But I could not believe it. Just how poorly this did in the States and Canada. You would have expected a reboot of something that's become a cult classic here that everybody talks about and goth kids swear by. That
well, $100 million opening would have been something which I thought was attainable. And I also think this is something, not $100 million opening, sorry, but $100 million in its entirety, I think is something which people would have, I think that's a reasonable assertion. And I think that's also what Lionsgate thought. So this film cost $50 million to make, which is, I mean, that's not much, to be fair. It's not much at all for a film like this. That is really cheap.
Look, as of this very moment, the international box office all in, it's $5.2 million as of this moment. Global.
It's what? Sorry, how much is it?
5.2.
What? Worldwide?
Yeah, that's the international box office came in at $187,000.
That's hilarious.
Well, it may not be released everywhere, and I haven't looked that up yet, but the only that's the numbers that were reported. And here's the other thing. It jumped to 5 million in the States because yesterday it earned $422,000 in the States.
That's brilliant.
That was Monday. Brilliant. That was Monday numbers.
Wow. Well, anyway, so it cost $50 million, which is not a lot, in fairness. Also had a really bad soundtrack. The song that they used in the trailer wasn't even in the bloody movie. Even if they used that song in the movie, that would have been a better song to use.
Yeah.
It would have been better.
Yeah, but it still wouldn't have worked. I mean, you needed to go
that's because music there is no music around like like the music for the original. There just isn't. Not now. It's not the same.
Yeah.
But anyway, so cost $50 million, has made nothing, completely nothing. But Lionsgate, interestingly, because they didn't fund this, I don't think. They picked it up for $10 million acquisition for North America, and $15 million for P&A.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they basically got $25 million into it, which is not bad. I can see why Lionsgate thought this was worth a punt. To be honest, I'm not saying it was a smart choice, but I can see why they probably thought, it's worth a punt, 25 mil.
Okay.
What do you reckon?
They're still losing money. I mean,
Obviously.
But it just it would. Yeah, I mean, look. That's a decent risk assessment. You know, the original film made this much money. We probably will make some money on it, but you know, they really should have put some money into the music. The soundtrack is garbage. Just go out, call Trent Reznor and say, "Can you make a soundtrack for this, please?" Or just somebody, right? Just reach back in time and grab somebody. I mean, even if you grab what the remnants of KMFDM or somebody, grab somebody, can make music from this time period. Well,
come on then. Numbers.
Oh, yeah.
Acquisition.
Well, okay. Look, $15 million for Prince and ad. A $10 million buy-in, $25 million all in. This thing so far is looking at a maximum maybe $20 million finisher at the box office. If it gets a broader international release, maybe. I mean, only 3 countries are actually reporting a box office, with the Netherlands at 130,000, Finland at 36,000, and Slovakia at 20,000. Notice I'm not saying million behind any of those numbers.
Wow, that's so bad, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's so bad.
And a lot of these, I mean, some of these countries opened before we did, like Brazil. They haven't even reported yet. So we don't know what Brazil's opening was. We don't know Argentina's opening. Australia doesn't open until the 29th. Can I tell you a little secret, folks in the chat? When Australia hears how shit this film is in the States, they ain't going to see it on the 29th.
Well, no, obviously not.
You know, the Czech Republic is this coming weekend. I mean, a lot of these that reported on the 20 that should have reported on the weekend part from because of the start date on the 21st or 22nd haven't reported yet. So these numbers could go up, but they're still going to be in the tens of thousands, not the tens of millions. So
bad.
I don't think I've seen something like this, and Borderlands was shit.
Well, yeah, but we're not really talking about that way.
No, but I'm just saying.
Actually,
yeah.
Oh, has Lionsgate got any other movies coming out this quarter? Or have they had any other movies coming out this quarter?
Well, see, that's the weird thing, right? They have some limited success already this year. But let me look it up.
I'm asking very specifically about this quarter.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now.
Is there anything
not off the top of my head. Borderlands and this one, and I don't think they have anything else on the calendar that I can think of or see.
So for those that aren't aware, I'll just sort of explain how Hollywood accounting works. Movie studios will put several movies on the same balance sheet. So regardless of the film's individual budget, when it's paired up with another film on the same balance sheet, if that film does well, it quite literally goes to the film which didn't do well necessarily. And so that's why you'll see a lot of studios not really caring that much and being able to absorb the cost because they tie it in with another movie. So that's why I'm asking whether they've got anything else coming out, because if they don't, this is pretty big, actually, for them as a studio, having 2 very, very, very big losses. Like, you can't hide that. There's no way to absorb that as a cost. They're just screwed, which is really bad. Because what you'll see from this then, if this is the case, is Lionsgate being very, very, very careful with what they do in the next few years, because this is a lot of money that they've lost. It's not a small amount; it's a hell of a lot of cash, actually. So yeah, you'll see some interesting things happening, I think, at the very least with what they announce moving forwards. Mark my words.
Yeah, Lionsgate to date has released this year 11 films.
Have they?
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
11 movies. Yeah, to date, they've only made $175 million on those 11 films. Selling just 16 million tickets. With a share of the box office at 3.15%.
Yeah, it's not very good.
Yeah. And this year we had so far to date
yeah, they've done a lot this year, actually.
Yeah, I'm going through it all. I'm like,
some of it is just distribution rights, though.
Right? Yeah, they didn't. Well, this one they obviously just took a flyer on and bought it, and they said, "Well, we have 25 million to waste." I don't know if you do.
Yeah, so slightly different. But still, that's a lot of cash that they've lost. I mean, what was Borderlands? Borderlands was a co-production, so that's the issue for them there. It's a lot of money that they would have lost.
Yeah, I'm trying to look forward in the form of
not without 1992. That's a distribution only.
Yeah.
Continue as a distribution only. Killer's Game is co-production. Bagman is distribution only. So they actually, so for those that just want to peek behind the curtain, Lionsgate mitigates a lot of the risk for their films because they're buying other people's films. So other people have made a film, and Lionsgate distributes it on behalf of other production studios. So to compare that to something which people are aware of, when I say the Monsterverse, a lot of people are like, "Oh, yeah, Warner Brothers," and I go, "No, the Monsterverse is actually created by Legendary, not Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers distribute it on behalf of Legendary, and they do co-produce it with a 25% stake, but it's a Legendary production. Legendary make it, and this is a similar-ish deal with what Lionsgate does. So Lionsgate will do some co-productions, but mainly, not mainly, but they will do numerous drop-in purchases of films to then distribute as well, and obviously take a percentage of it. So just an interesting peek,
Well, and consider this. I mean, Lionsgate right now, they took such a bath on Borderlands to the tune of 22 million. Everybody involved in that is getting hosed, and Media Capital Technologies, which is probably the funding mechanism, and everybody that got involved on that co-production. Gearbox Software. You got, first of all, Gearbox is freaking because they want to release this Borderlands 4 game that nobody wants.
Yeah, that's going to die.
Yeah,
that's going to die. Well, anyway, The Crow bombed. It was always going to bomb.
Yeah,
ladies and gents. We do got some super chats about this though.
Cool.
Which we'll move on to now because again, this is a hell of a long time on a really boring film. Crazy 118 sent in $5 over on Streamlabs and says, "I love both pages, and here's one for you. That if the remake of The Crow wasn't called The Crow, how do you think it would have done?"
It's a good question.
I think it would have had. I think it would have done better. Like inevitably, I think it would have done better. I think there was a lot of people. There was an abstinence vote, abstaining vote. People just chose not to turn up. They abstained from simply going to the theater to even entertain a view to see how it was, simply because it had the name The Crow attached to it. Lots of people. It's the Brandon Lee disrespect people didn't like. So if you didn't call it that and it was called something else and still had Skarsgård in the role, I think it would have done. I honestly think it would have done better. I don't think it would have made it a better film, mind you, but I think it would have done better at the box office because people like Skarsgård. So I think people would have gone to be like, "Oh yeah, what's that then? Let me have a look." What do you reckon, Culture?
No, I agree with you. I think if it weren't tagged with the name, if they weren't trying to redo the story either, if this film had been something
Yeah,
that was just The Crow but not around Eric Draven and Shelley Williams, I think was her last name. If it wasn't around those two characters, I think it could have had the opportunity to do much better. They could have told their own story. This was a huge departure, and I think because everybody had seen and heard that and can tell from the visuals that were offered, they did. I think the abstinence vote, the "I'm not going to see this" vote, was the one that won. Because there are I mean, go walk into a Hot Topic. There's still Crow stuff in there now. That's a retail store here in the States that, you know, sells all this goth junk. You know, and look, I mean, you know, I grew up in a time when goth was pretty popular.
yeah, it's not anymore. So, okay,
yeah.
so you thought it would have done better as well. Cable Watson says Bill Skarsgård is hot in the movie though.
Yeah,
I don't. Well, all right, culture agrees with you. I was going to say I don't like men, so
I'm not in.
Vote,
I mean,
but culture agrees with you because culture.
I'm not into dudes, but I'm just saying.
Get defensive. Don't need to get
no,
defensive.
I wasn't. Right. I'm just saying. Hey, look. I mean, come on now. I mean, some guys are good looking. I'm just saying.
All right. Marshmallow says this is to do with addicts. Some even tell their own kids it's effed up. It is, my dude. It is. Absolutely is.
Are you going to see? With this, are you going to see City of Dreams? Speaking of that.
I don't even know what that is. So,
tell me
about it in a minute. Let's go to some of these super chats.
Right. Sorry about that. Sorry.
We've got a huge super chat here, and this guy, I assume it's a guy. Actually, I've never really even asked. This guy has done a few of these now, and I'm always blown away. And I'm building it up, but it is genuinely quite crazy. Oni Mishima has super chat $100 over on Streamlabs. I think this might be the third time he's done this, which is crazy. So thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough. It says, thanks for the foot date. You're welcome. It says, hope it heals quickly. For those that don't know, I fell down the stairs. I smashed up my foot. It was pretty brutal. And I spent all night in A&E in it. It was shit. Made me hate the NHS, put it that way. Hope it heals quickly. I wish they had just left The Crow alone. Luckily, people will forget this trash release quickly. That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're completely right, is that no matter how... No matter what you think of this film, it doesn't really matter because it will just fade into irrelevancy in no time. Like, this will just be gone like a fart in a wind. It'll just disappear. I wonder, what's the betting this will be on streaming in 2 weeks' time? Would you reckon? Likely or unlikely?
Well, I know Borderlands is going to be available as of the 30th, so yes.
Exactly. That's what I'm using as the metric.
Yeah. I'm going to... Lionsgate's like, oh, flip. We need to sell this to somebody quick. Like, Netflix, you want to buy a terrible film? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's cheap. Exactly. $25 million.
Yeah. So, well, thank you so much.
That's
Mishima. Genuinely,
generous.
Thank you so much, man. That's crazy. Okay, that's it. That's all the super chats for that now. So we'll shuffle on.